as well. So, of course, I want to operationally define what is culture. What are we talking about today for the next, 45 minutes or so? I want to make sure we're all on the same page. So this is not my overarching definition to any degree. It's really kind of all of the research, everything I've read, my experience, all the courses I've taken throughout the years and all my different education points of access. So what are we calling culture? What is culture? So parsimoniously, if you will, culture is the shared values, beliefs, and practices of a group reflecting their collective identity and way of life. Now, that group could be millions and millions of people. That group could be 3 people. That group could be very tiny or very large. And we want to look at what are their values, beliefs, and practices. Why are they behaving? Why are they engaging in specific behaviors? So I'm opening the chat. If anyone, I just like to get participation, show of hands. You can use your little emojis or pop into the chat. Is there anything that you agree, disagree, have added value to kind of what our operational definition is of culture, just kind of from a very foundational level? Cool. Thanks for some feedback. Thanks. Awesome. We've got a lot of agreeing. Awesome. Agreeing. Complete. Cool. Yes, I love that. Passed from generations, right? So culture is not a standalone in just this moment. It's often coming from history as well. Perfect. Great. Okay. So we're all on the same page. So we are going to continue then, framing it even more into behavior analysis. Yes, always changing, evolving. I love it. And that's so relevant to my next slide, right? Skinner back in 1953, of course, we've got to pull Skinner into this, right? The level of, this was his quote, right? So I will read this to you because I like the kind of the basic foundation of when we refer to culture in the area of just human behavior, right? So Skinner wrote, what a man eats, drinks, and how he does so, what sorts of sexual behavior he engages in, how he builds a house or draws a picture or rows a boat, what subjects he talks about or remains silent about, what music he makes, what kinds of personal relationships he enters into, and what kinds he avoids, all depend in part upon the practices of the group in which he is a member. And I think that rings so true, right? Of what our tangibles are, what are our attentions, what do we avoid, what do we escape, right? It all goes back to kind of those basic foundations of why people behave. What are the functions of everyday behavior? And they're often steeped into your behavior history. What cultures and groups do you belong to? What cultures and groups do you identify with? And are your behaviors more in line with the culture and groups, or are you starting to veer off? Right? Are your behaviors starting to change? What are you talking about? What are you avoiding talking about? What are you silent about? So I think that as we continue thinking about just our own culture before we even dive into other cultures and other people's behaviors, we constantly have to think about just kind of those everyday, what we're eating, what we're drinking, what we're choosing to talk about. Are you on social media? I bet if you guys have an Instagram and you logged into Instagram right now, the ads and the things and the algorithms that pop up on your Instagram feed are very different than the person sitting next to you because of the behaviors you engage in or the cultures or the groups that you belong to, right? What do you follow? What do you buy? Do you have children that they're part of your algorithm too, right? And a quick question here, is it fair to say we can have the same culture without identifying with the same label? And actually it's interesting. A lot of what we think about often is culture can be rich, right? But if you're constantly within the same neighborhood, the same group, right? You're constantly around people that have the same behaviors and cultures and beliefs and values as you. Sometimes you almost feel like culture absent, right? Like, oh, I don't really have a culture because everyone's kind of operating the same. very similar behaviors, similar language spoken, similar beliefs and values and all of these things, right? So it's interesting as we go through, we're going to talk a little bit about micro groups and micro cultures. And I think that's going to live with you, and kind of, you don't necessarily have to have a label, right? It's just an overarching culture, is this overarching way that people behave and engage with their everyday lives and each other. So great question. And for some reason, my chat isn't diving down. Okay. So a little bit more about me. So these are things that I may or may not share to different people as I engage with them, right? So a family that I'm now working with, a new case or a new supervisee or different things, you share pieces of yourself, right? You want to be able to build a rapport, right? You want to pair with people, have shared experiences, share cultural backgrounds, things like that. But I often overshare in like a presentation like this, right? A group like this. So you guys can start thinking about how does culture shape you, and how do you shape your own culture? Some things you're born into, like where you live. You don't choose where you're born, right? Like I was born in New York. I didn't choose that. But maybe as an adult, you choose where you live, right? You choose where you may attend church, or you didn't choose your skin color, but maybe you chose to get tattoos to add to your skin, right? There's things that we're born into, and there's things that you experience throughout your life that obviously shape your behavior. We know that. But how do we address those and share them from a cultural perspective and a behavior perspective related to our everyday living? So to model some cultural humility and share identities and experiences that shape my perspective every day is race and ethnicity. I'm born and raised white, female. I am heterosexual. I'm married, and I am a mom to two daughters. My professional roles, I am a behavior analyst. I do mentor, and I'm definitely an ethics enthusiast. Some hobbies and way I kind of explore my creativity side is I love to do art and painting. I'm a yoga hobbyist, if you will. I dabble in yoga. I think I engage in yoga behavior throughout the day. Wish I had more time to actually go to yoga classes more often. My cultural and regional identity, I often say I'm a New Yorker, born and raised, regardless of where I live. I often tell families and supervisees and colleagues, I'm born and raised New York. I talk way too fast. Please ask me to slow down. It's often a behavior barrier when I'm talking too quickly. Religious upbringing. So I was exposed to lots of different religions as a child. I was born half Catholic and half Jewish in a household with both, each parent, one was Catholic and one was Jewish. I went to a Lutheran school. I went to a Catholic school. And I my brother actually went to a Quaker school, went to Methodist college, like all different exposures to religions. I love to explore that and ask a lot of questions about religion. And I know that shapes a lot of people's day-to-day and culture. Lived experiences. This is an example of where people often don't realize that sometimes you're part of a group or part of a subculture, if you will, that you didn't choose, right? It's something that when you run into someone with the same shared experience, it's something like, oh, yeah, you're part of that group too, and you didn't choose it. So about 10 years ago, my brother was 35 years old, and he suddenly passed away from heart failure without any signs or symptoms. And I became a sibling survivor. And those experiences definitely shape different behaviors. And when you run into other people that have also lost siblings, it's this unique kind of experience and group and kind of communication, if you will, sometimes a silent communication. So I'm sure a lot of you, if not everyone, has had an experience in your life that you have lived through, that you've joined a club without asking to join a club, if you will. And sometimes those cultural experiences create behavior, create communication, create barriers where you may feel uncomfortable walking into a family's home or walking onto a case that has that experience that kind of triggers things, right? Be it trauma or not trauma, but it's a triggering experience. So I often remind people, think about those things. Think about how your cultural and your life experiences reach others or create barriers that you're not going to operate at your 100%, best self. And then group memberships, those are things like I choose, right? Lots of people say, like they were a scout or a specific sport. I played lacrosse my whole life through college. Gymnastics I dabbled into. There's different group memberships that we often choose to and like to participate in those types of activities too. So we're not going to take the time right now, but an optional activity for you guys to think about, and there's lots of, if you Google, there's lots of examples out there for self-identity maps. These are really great for you to think about to break down, different cultural heritages or education and work, values, beliefs, languages, community, art or expression or hobbies, different things that kind of become you, right? You're in the middle, that's your self-identity, but what's important to you or what has shaped your experience and culture that might create biases or really good rapport building, right? So both ends of the spectrum. And there's really cool ones out there. I didn't get fancy. Full disclosure, this one's AI generated. So just kind of a quick example, but they can arch out really far. I wish my languages were, ever-arching. I wish I could speak 1,000 languages and I can't. So they can get really creative. There's some really cool artistic artists out there that created self-identity maps, and they're just like really nice visual. We all know we like visuals. So to break things down and see how far-reaching your identity map is and what's really big, right? Like what keeps growing and where are areas that you want to explore more or might get shut down because you feel, triggered or have barriers around those areas. So just kind of